Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? Oh, my hair looks a little nutty, doesn't it? I'm so funny. I need to look in a mirror before I go on these shows. I live a very solitary, weird life right now when I'm not working. Wayne's at the office. I just wander around these halls like a ghost. But anyway, we're going to... It's just bothering me. We're going to try to keep today... Let me just try to fix this a little bit. We're going to try to keep today short and sweet and to the point. Oh, let me try to put up, because I did get that request and I'm trying to honor it, the chat widget. Oh, and these are all the... Here we go. It's refreshing from... Now I'm looking all like Pompadour. Oh, well, we're just going to forget about this right now. I'm trying to honor the request. Hello, JJ. Of having the chats on the screen. Before we get started, though, as I keep trying to remember, actually, I put the chat box up. I'll try to do this for the next show. I will do my promo for Asteros for your surface penetration testing to see how vulnerable your business is at the 3 o'clock show. Since I already stuck the chat up here, which would be in the area of the screen, I would display the logo. But let's do some other grifting while we are at it. Maybe I will be a good girl and will refrain from any kind of cussing. And I think I will, because this isn't like a cussing type of show. It isn't an anger type of show. Well, you just never know. I have a couple things on my mind that you never know. But I'm trying to be a good girl, so hopefully this will remain monetized. But anyway, all super chats matter. You're not... I don't like my necklaces and my shirt. You're not getting this information from anywhere else. You just aren't. Some people aren't interested in it, but those of you who are, please support my work, patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty, or Super Chats. The Patreon just goes to support the show, ongoing support of the show. The Super Chats right now go to support my campaign, just so that you know, and you can get plenty of time still, the good Liberty Unmasked t-shirts at tinyurl.com/Pink Flame merch, not the fraudulent Phantom of the Opera crap foisted on us by the convention committee. We're going to get right to the subject now, though. You can see all my shameless grifting links scrolling along the bottom or in the YouTube notes. I'm going to do... It's not going to be a long intro. It might be a little bit of a long intro, but it's very important. And I'm going to be repeating this for a lot of shows. As we're coming up onto less than 2 months before convention, I want to let you know my overriding goal. That is that we have a successful convention and that we still have a party after this convention. I know some of you think I'm Chicken Little, but there is a non-zero chance that we don't survive this convention. I'm not the only person who thinks this. Outsiders think this. And outsiders' judgment, I trust a lot more than those of us in the thick of it, because we can tend to get overly emotional. If people who don't have anything invested in us, their own blood, sweat, and tears, are looking at this impassively as an outsider and saying that, please take them seriously. I've also become aware and intuited. A lot of this is my own inference. No proof. Take my inference and my gut for what it's worth. Weigh what you see with your own eyes and come to your own conclusion. But there's a battle tactic, an ancient battle tactic. I think we still probably even use it today. I'm a pacifist. I'm not an expert on battle tactics, but I know quite a bit that there is, I know quite a bit about more ancient history. And it used to be, if you saw an invading army, what you saw is an invading army, and you knew they were going to take your city, and you had a way to escape, out of spite, or just out of, well, spite. Let's just put it spite. There can be good spite, I suppose. The occupants of the city will kill all the livestock, burn down all the produce, set fire to all the buildings, and then abandon the city and say, "Welcome to be king of the ashes, bastards." And there are some people in this party who are so caught up in their own agendas that they would rather do that than see people they might not agree with win. And yes, I am specifically talking about the people with the Mises Caucus derangement syndrome, to the extent that they're sending out these deranged letters like Nicholas Sarwark. I am absolutely convinced that there's a very, very, very small contingent, but it only takes a small contingent of people whose actual purpose is they know they're not going to win, so they are determined to leave ashes behind. There are people doing this on purpose. Again, can I prove that to you? No. Look around. Open your eyes. Just use your common sense. It's happening. It is absolutely happening. Oh, John, the video is going to get more fun. It's going to get more educational. The lobster one should be coming soon. But I'm just telling you what my motivations are now for the next 45 days. So my motivations for the next 45 days. Yes, I am a Mises Caucus person. That's not my primary motivation these next 45 days. My primary motivation these next 45 days is to say, screw you to those who would rather leave this party in ashes than have their non-preferred candidates win. Those are the type of people that need to go. And as I said, it's a very, 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 very slight portion of people. I'm also convinced that some of those people are on the LNC. Do I know who? No. So I am going to presume everyone on the LNC is just being incompetent. Because I don't know who is actually acting in a very destructive, bad faith way. But there is no way there is not inside help here. There definitely is inside help in being useful idiots for people like these manipulators. So, when I start to do some videos pointing out which, let me give you an analogy. Remember when I told you at PorkFest when I was doing my speech, and Nick Sarwark was darting from column to column with dark sunglasses on, surreptitiously filming me? And people were like looking back going, dude, we know you're not really a CIA agent. That's like a joke. But you couldn't look more like a CIA agent if you tried right now. There are things that the LNC and the Convention Oversight Committee, not all of them, are doing that they couldn't look like they were purposely sabotaging the party more if they tried. And Kathy asked what a collapse of the party looks like. I don't know. I think each collapse looks differently. I think what they're envisioning more is a split rather than a collapse, but we won't survive a split. So I'll call it a collapse. I think what they're trying to engineer is a split, but a split will collapse our party. No matter what side of whatever issue you're all hot and bothered about right now, resist the type of nasty, if I can't have her, no one else can type of personalities that are doing this in the party right now. And I don't know who they all are, but I can tell you anyone sending out Libertarian Defense Fund letters are part of them. So, today we're going to talk about credentialing. I'm going to get my biases out in front like I always do, because I want you guys to hear what I have to say and come to your own judgments. Susan Hogarth is Credential Committee's chair. She and I are not BFF. However, I do believe that Susan loves this party. I do not believe Susan is one of these king of the ashes type people. I have a lot of issues with Susan. I think she's got a lot of issues. But I do not believe for a second she is one of those people who are trying to collapse the party. I do think she could be a useful idiot for them. But I don't think that is her goal. I've known her long enough. She's been working in this party for decades. So let's get that right out front. What I'm trying to get out front is my presumption of good faith and my personal not liking her very much. So the purpose of this video is not to tell you what a terrible person Susan is. The purpose of my video is not to set Susan Hogarth on fire. The purpose of this video is to express my genuine concerns that she is not ready to handle credentialing, in the hopes that she will work her ass off for the next 45 days to get ready and be successful. Because her being successful as Credential Committee's chair is a win for us. And if she doesn't think she can do that, I am imploring her to have someone else chair this committee. But that's not what I'm asking for. She was duly elected chair of this committee by her peers. But she needs to rise to the occasion. There's been some unfair criticism. Unfair is not the right word. Misdirected criticism I've had of her in the past on the LNC, where I would wonder, when she'd just totally screw up parliamentary procedure, this woman used to be state chair of North Carolina. How the heck does she not know this stuff? And then I just recently found out it's because she has no experience with Robert's Rules of Order. North Carolina runs under DRO. So that was misdirected criticism in one sense. You know, me going, as state chair, she should know this because obviously she must have ran meetings before, but it's not misdirected in another way. I get that when she came on the LNC, she didn't know squat about Roberts because that wasn't what she was familiar with. Just like before I read DRO, I didn't know squat about DRO. But once you get on a body that uses Roberts, and you've been on this body 4 years now, you should have learned it. It's on you now. This is her third. DRO is the Democratic Rules of Order, which is a piece of shit parliamentary authority for political groups. As Ken Molman so aptly put it, it might be adequate for book clubs to determine their next reading selection. This will be her third term as credentialing committee chair. And I don't believe, I could be wrong, I don't believe she's ever even read the sections in Roberts on credentialing. And that disturbs me. Maybe I'm wrong. None of her actions and words on the LNC list give me any indication that she's even aware that there are sections on credentialing in Roberts. Like, it was completely, like, she was going to credential on her credentials report more than the number of delegates that our bylaws allow to be credentialed, because she didn't know how challenges are handled. Susan, it's not long sections. Please read it. And I can tell you that I empathize with the position that you're in. Because when we're kind of like followed a similar track. You're on your third term as Credential Committee's chair. I'm on my third term as Platform Committee chair. On my first term, I was on the Platform Committee with Alicia Mattson and Aaron Starr. And I ran against Alicia Mattson for Platform Committee chair and beat her. And I knew that she was going to be watching me like a hawk, and that woman knows what the hell she's doing. So you know what I did before the first meeting? I studied my ass off so I wouldn't make a fool out of myself. And I knew that substitutes were a big thing in Platform Committee, so now I am now the substitute motion whisperer. I studied those things so damn much that at least in the LP, I probably know more about substitute motions than anyone that's not a parliamentarian. Like, I've got a substitution motion fetish now, as everyone knows, because that, like, programmed me. You need to become the same with the sections in Roberts that have to do with credentials. And you need to not let the party chair be whispering in your ear, influencing credentialing. You are the chair of a committee of the convention, not of the LNC. You are not answerable to Whitney Bilyeu. You are answerable to the delegates at convention. And I know damn well Whitney's been whispering in your ear her preferences. You should not care. I've become more and more convinced that the LNC should get no appointments to any of these convention committees, that they should all come from the affiliates. Because we've seen with LNCs that have a little bit of power, like paternalism, like we saw last convention, they start to inordinately influence these committees. So I'm asking you, please, remember, Whitney will make rulings. That is her job. Whitney will chair the convention. That is her job. It is not her job to interfere or influence the Credentials Committee, which she has openly done on the LNC list, and you've let her do it. This is your committee. Run it. I'd like to re-emphasize again that the Credentials Committee actually has very little quote-unquote power. I know all of us in the LP have very, very little power. But the Credentials Committee actually has very little power. You guys get the names within certain time frames that are submitted by the recognized affiliates of the party. You check those names to confirm that they meet the minimum bylaws requirements to be credentialed as delegates, and that's it. Unless you do not know who, because the LNC doesn't know who, the identity of a legitimate affiliate is. And right now, even though there is an affiliate in dispute in Massachusetts, the LNC is still officially recognizing the wrong one. I think they're the wrong one. But it is their delegates that you have to put on their initial list, because that is right now, wrongly, but right now, the officially recognized affiliate. I say right now because there are appeals and that may change, and I hope it does change. But that's all you guys do. You don't make any other determinations. If there becomes a question as to whether a particular delegate actually meets the qualifications and there's some dispute, like if the affiliate bylaws say they had to be national members and they're arguing about the postmark date of their membership form, okay, those might be little minor disputes you are dealing with, and sometimes those will have to be submitted to the delegates at convention. But in general, your power is very limited. You are not, you are a verification committee, not a decision committee. And from what I've seen of things you've said, you think, oh great, my phone is ringing, so while my phone is ringing, I don't have video. Isn't this wonderful? So hold on, I'm going to go, I forgot to turn off my ringer. Okay. I should be back now. Sorry about that. Now I know to put my phone on pause when I'm doing these shows in the middle of the afternoon. So, you're a verification committee. Words I've seen you say make me think that you are much more of a decision committee than you are. Now, there are some exceptions to that. But in general, you're a verification committee. It's mostly clerical work. You're not a decision committee. So stop letting Whitney whisper in your ear that you're a decision committee, because you're not. It's not up to you to determine or to, whenever anyone in leadership says they're going to do something to save time, run away screaming. And Susan, please don't let the words, I'm going to do this to save time, ever come out of your mouth again. Because every time you've ever done that in your history on the LNC, I don't know why you haven't learned, you have never saved time. And it's not just you. Anytime anyone on the LNC has ever said, we're going to do X to save time, it never saves time. So don't say, well, I'm just going to proactively submit this dispute because I know this dispute is going to be made from the floor and I'm going to save time by bringing it forward. That's not your place or your job. I know you don't like this, but you are not the delegate's mother and you are not their hall monitor. Believe me, the delegates know damn well who they want to challenge, and they are perfectly capable of doing it without your assistance. So butt out. Your job and your committee's job is to submit the list. And beforehand, there probably will be no disputes that you need to resolve. And if they are, They will be, again, minor ones having to do with, was so-and-so a state party or national party member by the right date? Did a delegation submit its substitution procedures? Very, very boring things like that. Not things like, which Delaware affiliates? That is not your job. And stop making it your job, and stop letting Whitney pull your strings to make it your job. In 2018, that's what you did. You need to do like 2018 again. And not do like you did in 2020, where you said, you decided on your own you were going to save time. Remember that, Susan? When the LNC unilaterally decided it was going to allow online delegates because it didn't trust the delegates on the floor not to disenfranchise the people that they have to work shoulder to shoulder with in their home states. So the LNC, to save time, just unilaterally decided it was going to allow it against our bylaws. And we wasted 2 days on that, saving time, where if you guys had just submitted it to the delegates to begin with, it would have been about an hour and we would have been over and done with it. Remember that the next time save time comes out of your mouth. Remember the last time when you said you were going to save time by not separating out the names of the online delegates from the in-person delegates? How you refused to do that in the beginning, even though people told you that that was your job? And then we had to waste hours waiting for your committee to do that. You remember that? Please remember that now and be the 2018 credentials chair instead of the 2020 credentials chair. Because the 2020 credentials chair was a hot fucking mess. It's been past 10 minutes, so I can use the F-bomb. But you want to know what? I gave that a pass because that was a screwed up convention. But I'm wondering if I made a mistake in giving you a pass there. Because the way you're handling this so far has not inspired confidence. And I want you to succeed for us. Because we don't want to waste a day on credentials. Whatever challenges are going to be made, let's let them get them made. Boom, boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, let's move on. What we need you to do, Susan, is submit the list and get the hell out of the way. And that's the best advice I could give you, in addition to actually getting a copy of Roberts if you don't already. And if you don't already own your own copy of Roberts, I think I'm just going to jump off Mount Evans. I just will want to pull my pink hair out if you do not already own a copy. And read the section on credentialing. And do not let Whitney con you into saying, well, let's hear all of the challenges. Let's just hear who all the ones that will be challenged are, because I know this is what her plan is. Okay, so we're just going to, X state is challenged. Okay, we'll write that down. X is challenged. Y is challenged. Okay, we'll write that down. Okay, now we're going to put all of these challenged delegates off to the side here, and everyone else is going to vote in bulk on this in bulk challenge. That is not the way it works. I know damn well that's how she's whispering in your ear. Read what Roberts says on it. The challenges are done. If they're by a person, it's person by person. If it's by delegation, it's delegation by delegation. And even though other delegations may be challenged, the only people who cannot vote on the challenged is the challenged delegation or person themselves, not the whole group that may eventually be challenged in the future. Because the tactic is, and don't be a useful idiot for it, is to challenge all of the Mises delegations, put them to the side, and have everyone else vote on them. And that is not the way it works. That is not the way it works at all. And for those of you who think this is fun and games, you start screwing up things like that When you start screwing up things on such a fundamental level, you risk rendering everything that happens at this convention null and void. Now, those of you who are scared of a Mises planet might go, great, I want everything here to be null and void or be in question. Think about it for a little bit, because the LNC that gets elected here, if later on they get challenged successfully, because that's what you guys set up, you want to know what else you are risking? Our next presidential candidate, because a lot of decisions will be made by this LNC that could later be ruled to be an invalid LNC that will destroy our next presidential run. So before you keep going with these silly little games that some of you are playing, think about that for a second. So these are my genuine concerns with credentialing. Susan, you've got a month and a half. It's not that complicated. You can learn it. Look up every resource you can of credentialing under Roberts. Perhaps find a parliamentarian. It wouldn't even cost you that much to personally hire one to school you, to run through simulations with you. Read the sections, ask questions, and keep the damn party chair out of it, because she has an agenda here to have a certain result. And you, as credentials chair, cannot be party to that. I have now learned, and this is not your fault, that an LNC member should never be credentials chair again. There is just too much opportunity for funny business. Always in the past, we've had decent LNCs that we haven't had this level of distrust. One thing having the worst LNC in the history of this party has taught us: plan for the worst and not for the best. Make your rules assuming you're going to have the worst LNC ever, rather than a mediocre one or one of the better ones. Nobody on the LNC should be bylaws committee chair. No one on the LNC should be credentials committee chair. Platform's a bit different. That's ideology. But I wouldn't even have a problem just to keep it even across the board to say no one on the LNC should be any of the convention committee chairs. But definitely not bylaws or credentials. The opportunity for conflicts of interest and monkeying around is far, far too great. But that's not your fault. That wasn't a rule. And I voted for you, as you know, for credential committee chair, because I viewed 2020 as an aberration, and I thought you did a good job in 2018. I now, knowing what I know now, that you really lucked out of it, and perhaps it was Emily Sylvette that was running things in 2018, yeah, I regret my vote, but I voted for you. So now I want you to succeed. I want you to succeed for the rest of us. So I'm not here to impute any kind of bad motives to you, but I am here to encourage you to use this month and a half to learn the job that you should have known already, but to learn the job. And speaking of that, we're 2 weeks out, less than 2 weeks out, I think, from the deadline for state chairs to submit their delegations. I know this weird fucking rule we have where you only need to at least submit one name that lives in your state and you can supplement it. I've always disagreed with that. I think it's bullshit. I think the intent of the bylaws were that the whole delegation list would be submitted 1 month before the convention. I know maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, you emailed out the state chairs saying that they would be hearing from you soon with instructions on how to submit their delegations, and they've heard nothing further from you. We're less than 2 weeks out. You should have been having multiple communications with state chairs. There's going to be a lot of them who aren't going to understand how to do this. They're brand new state chairs. When are you planning on getting back in touch with them with instructions? I know there are people who want to submit their delegations. And there are people who want to send out educational materials to these delegates. And if we want educated delegates, they need to have the opportunity for the U.S. mail to lose it for a few weeks. So this waiting to the last minute thing, and from what I understand, I could be wrong, because it's from, fourth-hand sources, you don't even have the credential site set up yet. I have my suspicions there, and I'll tell you what my suspicions are, which I'll go into more on a video on Tuesday. I think the credential, and from what I understand, it's not you that doesn't want the credential site set up, that it's been other people that have been dragging their feet. And you want to know why they've been dragging their feet? Because they're going to try to shove porcupine down our throats, and without having rules in place, they are going to try to use porcupine for credentialing. Susan, resist that. This is a disaster in the making. If you do not see the horrendous conflict of interest to have an untested, unvetted program that we're going to go into on Tuesday, designed by a sitting LNC member to be the thing that runs the entire convention, then you've lost your frickin' mind if you can't see that conflict of interest. I am convinced that credentialing has not been set up yet because they're still trying to shove porcupine down our throats with it. And they want to use porcupine for credentialing. There are a lot of programmers and developers in our party that don't have the position of privilege that a sitting LNC member has to push their pet little program. That is not right. That is ripe for abuse, and that is not an appropriate use of an LNC member's influence. I'm not even saying that there's any ulterior motives. There could be. I don't know. There doesn't have to be for it to be wrong. But I don't know on this one, but I suspect that is why credentials hasn't been set up yet. Don't go down with that ship, Susan, because that porcupine ship is going down. Can you imagine, just imagine if you will, we as libertarians would hear, let's just say the Democrats, had a sitting member of the DNC who designed their voting program that hadn't been vetted by any outside developer community. It hasn't gone through any of the standard testing and types of protocols that happen in the software world. And they were going to use that to run their very internally contentious convention in which the people who were already in power didn't want certain other people who right now have no power to win. So they come up with their own voting system. What do you think we would think of that? Don't you think we would find that a little sus? A little suspicious? Just a little corrupt? Of course we would. But we're doing it right now. And none of you right now on the LNC are kicking up any kind of fuss. I've seen a little bit of fuss about whether or not it conforms to our bylaws and our rules of order. It doesn't, but none of you are mentioning the honking huge elephant in the room of the conflict of interest that this is controlled entirely by a sitting LNC member. Yet my YouTube channel was a conflict of interest. Hypocrites. Everyone else sees it. But no one on the LNC list dare say it. It's incredible to me. You've talked around it. You've said everything but you won't say that, it's probably not a good idea for us to be policing ourselves. It's probably not a good idea for the LNC to be writing the program that elects the LNC? That's why I said, you guys might not be actively trying to sabotage the party, but you couldn't look like you were anymore if you tried. So Tuesday, I'm planning on doing a very, very in-depth show on a wrap-up of what I know so far on the porcupine fiasco. I thought you guys looked corrupt as hell before. And I know, again, just as Whitney is whispering in your ear, Susan, Whitney is pushing porcupine. The party chair needs to stay the hell out of this. Even if there are no ulterior motives, the optics are horrid. Everyone can see it but you guys in your echo chamber, or you don't care. Oh, hold on.
Objection, speculative.
Oh, I gotta hear it again.
Objection, speculative.
I could listen to that all day long. I could listen to that all day long. Okay. And JJ has pointed out an attempt to put it to the side will be immediately subject to a point of order. I do not put it past Whitney to say that she will not entertain a point of order and rule it dilatory. That is exactly her style. What do you do then? I know what you're going to say, JJ, and it sounds good on paper, but really, what do you do if the chair just refuses? What do you do? Realistically. And I wouldn't put it past her to do. And I knew what JJ was said. It makes no difference. It will be put from the floor. It can't be put from the floor if nobody hears it. Pandemonium will break out, which is exactly what the Chaos Masters want. Pandemonium will break out. And you can't put something to the floor if people are running, like happened in Pennsylvania, stealing the mics, running around, causing all kinds of chaos. We need to plan for all of this. Because you can't just assume that the chair will just refuse and that everyone will just sit there and be like, oh, well, kind sir, I will be putting this motion from the floor. I don't think you've been to a Libertarian convention. There's a non-zero chance that people will get naked. Let's just put it that way. I don't think people will start stripping, but there's a non-zero chance of that happening. Okay? Like, this is a Libertarian convention. This isn't a convention of people dressed up as funeral directors. The rules presume good faith actors. Or at least most people being good faith actors. And I'm not so sure we can presume that here. I'm hoping I'm wrong on all of this. I am doing these videos where I'm alerting you guys to my concerns to make myself be wrong. If I didn't care about this party, this is what I would do. If I didn't care about this party, I would be popping some popcorn right now, grabbing my wine and just going, sorry. down the wrong way. That's what I would be doing. I would just kick back and be like, ooh, that must have hurt. But I do care. And no matter how ass mad I am about what the LNC did to me, I do not take it out or hold the party responsible for it. And though I may not always go about things in ways that people approve of, or even sometimes in retrospect that I approve of, every single thing that I do is motivated by a deep love for this party, or I would not bother to put myself through this. Because the emotional angst I have gone through, not even over the suspension, just over the games that have been going on, I'm a wreck. I'm a wreck over the games. And Cameron says, for a sneak preview of how Whitney will run the LNC convention, this Saturday is the LP Texas convention. She's chairing that one. I don't think the two are comparable, because Texas in general is not going to be hostile territory for Whitney. From what I understand, I know some people don't care for her. Some people don't care for every single chair. I obviously think Wayne is the greatest chair in the world in Colorado, but there's a contingent of people who just don't like him, no matter what state you're talking about. In general, I think people in Texas like Whitney. I don't think I'm going to see her at her worst. I actually think I'm going to see her at her best this weekend. That's what I expect. I could be wrong. There's no way Whitney would be running, and she's running unopposed for re-election. If she was a terrible chair in Texas, there is no way she would be running unopposed. The fact that she's running unopposed tells me that she's probably fairly well liked in Texas and does a good job, generally speaking, as Texas chair. I know some people don't want to hear that. It's not even something I generally want to say because I'm not her biggest fan. I'm just looking at this objectively as an outsider. If she was a disliked chair in Texas, somebody would be running against her, and nobody is. Nobody is. That tells you something. And JJ says the games are just starting. I hope I can handle it. As JJ said, I'm not a big enough bastard. I know the LNC thinks I'm a really big bastard, but no, I'm not. This all affects me personally very deeply, and I don't like it one bit. I hate politics. I hate it with the hatred of 1,000 suns. But I'm just going to see if there's any other comments. I think that is really all I wanted to cover. Again, this was maybe a roundabout way to try to encourage Susan, because she has a month and a half. It's plenty of time to be an excellent credential committee's chair. And that's what I want for her. But the first thing she needs to do is stop listening to Whitney, because Whitney has no place in your committee. None. And as far as I know, even Nick didn't interfere with credentials committees. But Tuesday we'll be talking about the LNC and the Convention Oversight Committee. And on that show, we're going to be getting into some dark shit. Unless things change between now and then, and they might. Cameron says she became a state delegate by 2 votes. Had I shown up, it would have been 1 vote. Okay, let me tell you something why I will not find that convincing. My husband's not a state delegate, and he's the state chair of Colorado. Does that mean he's unpopular? Or does that mean that there were certain voting blocks that decided to vote a certain way, And it wasn't necessarily based upon popularity, but upon other factors. There were very, very popular people in Colorado who aren't even alternates. My husband is second alternate. I barely made the delegate list. So I would be a flaming hypocrite if I were to be laughing at the idea that Whitney only became a state delegate by 2 votes. I didn't think I was going to become a state delegate. And I'm not going to be hypocritical. And this is a weird year where people who normally would have been made in the shade to be state delegates aren't. So I'm just not going to go there because I would be hypocritical, and I'm just not going to do it. I am a state delegate, but I almost wasn't. One of my favorite people in the party, Mark Montoni's first alternate. I don't think he's never not been a delegate, and that is not a statement on his ability or popularity, because people in Colorado love Mark Montoni. So there's other factors at play here, and I'm not going to presume to know what was going on in Harris County. So who makes and doesn't make delegate sometimes isn't the best indicator, particularly in this very, 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 very weird year. I think the bigger metric is no one is running against her. If she was a terrible chair in Texas, somebody would be running against her. Somebody. I know we probably will disagree with this, Cameron. We can have some email conversations back and forth. All right, everyone. We are at 1:50. I've got another show at 3. It is history. No controversy. Or if it's controversy that happened in the 1970s. So it's non-stressful controversy. That will be it for today. Tomorrow, as far as the LPT, we'll do the history. Maybe later tonight. I don't think so, though. There's a platform committee town hall. National still hasn't sent out the email for it. Oh my God, the utter incompetence. I just can't handle it anymore. I just can't handle it. Yeah. If you, as members, didn't know there was a platform committee town hall tonight, it isn't because the platform committee chair, me, didn't ask for this email to be sent out 2 weeks ago. I'm just spreading it on social media and hope people come. If they don't, they don't. I tried. So I'll see you at 3. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, pardon me. And I'm flying out to Maryland tomorrow, and I will be in Texas just for a few hours on Sunday. So I hope you have an awesome rest of the day if I don't see you at my 3 o'clock show. All right. Bye-bye.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because